At the centre of the fight back against the COVID crisis is the Bank of England. All guns blazing, says the man at the heart of the operation, Mr Haldane, the chief economist. Maverick, contrarian and controversial advocate of the V-shaped recovery that has slipped away in recent weeks.
To be clear, I never predicted a V-shaped recovery. I described the recovery that was taking place.
Do you regret using that phrase?
Absolutely not. As a description of the economy, that is what has happened.
Perhaps the announcement of BioNTech's vaccine, which saw markets around the world rally, gives him some sense of vindication.
This could be transformational. We've been, have we not, Helia, for so many months now in this gloom loop, right? The media coverage dominated by news of viruses and deaths and destruction of jobs and incomes. All of a sudden, at a stroke, some light appeared at the end of the tunnel.
Do you think there's been excess caution about the pandemic then?
I think there was a risk of that. There is no point in us engaging, as we have, in monetary policy, going all guns blazing, fiscal policy, tax and spend, going all guns blazing. If you then communicate in a way that is stoking up fearfulness.
But with the bank describing the current crisis as the worst recession in 300 years, even Haldane accepts this is a dangerous time for the British economy. Latest figures show there are now 1.6 million people out of work. That's the highest level in 4 years. But inequalities are also rising. The number of young people in work has fallen by 174,000, hitting the worst level ever recorded.
It is bad, and nothing weighs with me more heavily than the impact this crisis is having on people's jobs. That was the reason I became an economist, and it is for me priority number one from an economic and financial perspective, to limit the damage to jobs.
But even with all the support from the bank and the Chancellor, forecasts still suggest 1 in 12 workers in Britain could lose their jobs.
This is a unique crisis in many respects. One of the most important respects in which it's distinctive and unique is because it exposes people, all of us, almost everyone on the planet, to a double jeopardy. A risk to both life and to livelihood. A risk to both health and wealth. And there is a sense in which, for the UK economy, we too are facing two distinctive risks. One, obviously, from the COVID crisis, on top of which we have the transition out of the customs union of the EU at the end of the year. As things stand, it's a little uncertain.
What's going to happen to inequality in Britain after COVID?
At the generational level, young versus old, I think it's likely there'll be a further stretching of the gaps between the incomes of the younger and the older generations. I think it's possible that will take place also between the richer and the poorer parts of society. I think it's possible, likely even, we will not see a levelling up, but the opposite of that by dint of the COVID crisis.
Does that not worry you?
Of course, deeply. It worried me before, it worries me even more now. But for me, that's why we need to absolutely redouble our efforts. It was a priority before. It is an absolute necessity now.
An unsubtle hint from the Maverick forecaster to his political masters that they must still deliver on their promise to level up the country or face scarring that will never heal.